Greetings, welcome back to The Best Beverage. Your host, James Wolverton, as always. Pleasure to welcome you here to this journey with me. If you like things around music, cocktails, adult beverages of all types, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and let's start today's episode. Ever have your mind made up about something and then you just kind of revisit that subject and decide, oh, that isn't what I thought it was? Well, the algorithm of YouTube, all hail the great algorithm of YouTube, please show some mercy upon me. Get me out to the... Anyway, all silliness aside, because it does track what you watch. For some reason, it kept on feeding me Sammy Hagar behind the scenes. To date myself, which I seem to do every episode, I grew up in the Roth era. I grew up 84, Diver Down, Van Halen there was one of my early album purchases. It just was amazing. When I had hair, it was lit on fire. So I just, not surprised that they broke up, because you can't have that huge of a personality with Roth and that huge of a personality of Eddie together. They just, And I love Sammy Hagar from his solo stuff. I think heavy metal, the track is great. I Can't Drive 55, 3 Lock Box, his stuff with Montrose just rocked. Loved it. So I was cautiously optimistic, to use a term, when he joined Van Halen. But then 5150 came out. And it continued on the worst parts of 84, which was just it was a keyboard-driven album with guitars in the background. Didn't care for it. I mean, well-crafted stuff that had Dreams. Dreams is probably arguably one of the best, at least top 5, if not top 3 Van Halen songs ever. Great song. The rest of the album just a little too commercial for me. So I kind of checked out. Now, I heard the other releases, enjoyed them, they were fine, yada, yada, yada. But with that getting back into the algorithm and keep on reminding me, Sammy saying, I'm like, he's great. Why that? For the channel, let's mow the lawn, turn on OU812. Eyes open. I'm like, the rest of the album, I'm like, oh, huh? And kind of like my impersonation of Vodka Martinis. Yeah, that's actually vodka. I don't care for vodka martinis. I mean, I like vodka, I make vodka, but vodka's vodka. It tastes like vodka. It tastes like alcohol, which is nice, but in a martini, a martini is the simplest cocktail that's the easiest to mess up. And it's one of the things I judge if I'm going to someone who's a mixologist or fancy cocktail bar. I judge them on their martinis because it's 2 to 3 simple ingredients. It's easy, but it's really hard. And if you don't get the ratios and so individual, And vodka, I love dry vermouth, but dry vermouth basically on its own would just taste like overproofed alcohol with vodka. But we recently at Castle and Key, like last year, released a botanical vodka. But James, you mean gin? No, gin has to have juniper in it. Vodka, as a botanical vodka, can have anything in it. Henry came up with, our R&D guy at Castle and Key, came up with this great recipe, which is grapefruit peels. And I saw him, he peeled a lot of grapefruit for this. Also put in some black cardamom for some flavor and some orris root to make it all blend together. Double check my notes. Yep, black cardamom, orris roots, and grapefruit peels. Orris root is just a binding agent to make the grapefruit and the cardamom play together. Really nice. I said, okay, I'm going to revisit this and tried it in a vodka martini, and it solved the problem because it didn't just taste like alcohol and vermouth, which I really enjoyed vermouth. And to a point, I enjoy alcohol, but the two of them together just is bland. But a botanical vodka that's not gin, because there's no juniper in it, is quite nice. Unfortunately, this was a one-off. Really did enjoy it, but we don't have it at the distillery anymore. If you want to Kettle One has several different lines. They have Grey Goose. If you want to spend that kind of money on something like that, you can. Also, Total Wine has their Veil line, which is their in-house that has several different botanicals. I prefer a 2-to-1 ratio. Sometimes it's a little higher. I like vermouth, but I've seen 1.5 to do it. I like 2-to-1, so 2-to-1. Nice dehydrated lemon. Oh, good. I love this. I love the citrus notes in it. They shine. Just definitely that grapefruit, pithy but slightly bitter. Plays real well with the botanicals and the herbs and the Lillet Blanc. Just chef's kiss. So you can do a vodka martini. If you like vodka martinis, that's great. I think they're bland. But if you're at a bar and they do have one which has an infused vodka in it, and you haven't enjoyed them in the past, it is something to revisit. Kind of like when I revisited the OU812, and doing research for this, I was surprised it was 88. Once again, I heard the releases, but just like with the Vodka Martini, I made my mind up after 5150 that I'm just not gonna. I'll listen to what's on the radio, but I'm not gonna go dig deep into a Van Halen album again, which was a shame because the tracks on here. Black and Blue I knew was a nice, solid guitar-driven track. That was one of the ones that was released. But AFU is just, I think that's what got me. It's the second or third track on the album, and I was listening while mowing, and I'm like, oh, this is Sammy solo days. This is him yelling over the guitar, just really getting into it, and that's back to Eddie just shredding, and guitar is the focus and hard rock is the focus. Sort of Infection was another great track. Sucker in a 3-piece. All of these are guitar driven tracks, which is really good. And they even went back to the fun days, because that's kind of what I miss for the most part in the Roth era. I think I miss from the Roth era. They would do these, dancing in the streets. They would do some fun reimagining of classic music into it. But, finish what you started is fun. It's borderline country western hard rock, just the twangy guitar in it. And just proves that, Edward Van Halen can play pretty much anything he wants on that guitar. But once stretching a little bit, something that I think, unfortunately, I don't know why, on the Hagar era, they just didn't do as much. But they did on this album. It showed maybe they should have revisited more, because it was a lot of fun and a great track. So don't be afraid to revisit stuff. Some things are worth a revisit. Definitely a Vodka Martini when it has other flavors other than, our flavor. I love vodka. There's nothing wrong, but it's the best backup dancer in the world. It supports and makes all the other flavors look good while delivering alcohol. It's perfect. But when it's so laid bare, you gotta have something a little special about it. Don't be surprised to go back and revisit stuff you made up your mind on, like the Hagar era. Now, I'm still Roth. Don't get me wrong, I love Sammy solo. It's who I grew up with. Do I think Hagar is a better musician and singer? Absolutely, there's no argument on it. But just that swagger I grew up with when I was a teenager, that was the lead singer of a hard rock band. Happy to revisit, a pleasant surprise on both of these. Don't hesitate to go out there and revisit stuff. I will see you in a couple weeks. Spooky season's coming up. There's some hard rock spookiness, and of course it's pumpkin beer time because it'll be October. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Remember, if you like hearing this stuff and me ramble about how old I am and how revisit old, then the next one will be new again. So I'm going to go in and out. hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'll see you in a few weeks. Take care. Enjoy your beverages responsibly.